Alright guys, good morning. Welcome back to the pod. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. I'm here this morning on this pod to record about a recent queer dream. So here comes an episode. So I've just finished my coffee. I'm going to be working on some hydration while I'm recording and then getting ready to work out a little bit, get a little exercise this morning from home before the weather kicks up and becomes too hot. Let me look at the weather real quick. It looks like today in my area of LA, highs are going to be 79, lows of 64. It's currently 65. And by 9 a.m., it's 7:23 a.m. right now. By 9 a.m., it's going to be 69 degrees. So I should hopefully finish working out before 9 a.m. It says by 8 a.m., it's going to be 66 degrees. So it's going to be slowly increasing until 2 and 3 p.m. when it's going to be 79 degrees. Sunset is 7:48 today. So then the rest of the week, it appears that the weather is going to be a little lower until next Wednesday. We're going to have a high of freaking 89. You got to be kidding me. Why is that even necessary? But we're going to have a little bit of warm weather, but not too bad. 79, 77, 76, and then back up to 77, then back up to 89. So, anyways, enough of the weather report. Let's see. All right, so I don't know what I'm gonna title this one yet, but I wrote my queer dreams. Spin class. So this is a dream. It's not real. It had some real people in it that I know, and then a whole bunch of other people that I don't know that don't really exist in my life. But yeah, I think I'm gonna call this spin class or spin class and diner or something like that. So some background. I had coffee yesterday morning as well as some coffee with my lunch, and it took me about 9 milligrams worth of melatonin to kind of feel a little bit more rested last night, about 1 milligram of THC and about 8 milligrams of CBD, and I think I fell asleep a little bit before midnight. I remember it was like 11:20 p.m. or so last night, and I remember right before 10 p.m. it was like 9:40 something. I'd already had the lights out, and I was like, let me go. I think I decided to like jump in the shower because I felt like, when you feel like, okay, I'm not gonna go to sleep, like I'm gonna wash my face, and my face felt a little oily, and so I was just like, I'm gonna wash my face, and then I was like, I might as well just jump in the shower so that I don't have to shower in the morning. But now if I'm gonna work out, I don't know how that's gonna work. But yeah, I basically showered before bed and then laid down and felt pretty good. Like I didn't feel like sweaty and oily and stuff. So it kind of helped me relax a little bit more. So basically I dreamt of this type of diner that had some queer staff there. Like I just knew that they were. It wasn't really a diner that really exists, or it wasn't really representative of any place that I really know. It was kind of like a small hole in the wall kind of coffee shop style. Like, when you have those little dive bars or those little coffee shops that are like super small, like like the furniture doesn't necessarily match each other, and like, but maybe like the coffee's good, the vibe is good, the environment's good, locals like it. It's kind of one of those locals type of spots. It was something kind of like that type of a vibe, like not really like a Starbucks or like an IHOP or like a major diner, like, or a major coffee shop, but like some small little combination coffee shop diner type of place. And so yeah, it was kind of small, and it had allies there as well. Like, people just kind of knew, okay, this is a spot where it's kind of like a safe space to hang out. And it was connected to a sort of gym. Like, there was some distance. I don't know how much distance there was, but I feel like it was walking distance. I don't have a visual representation. All I know is that outside it was all dirt. Like, there wasn't pavement. There might have been a little pavement around the outside of the diner, but there was no real pavement around the gym area. It was just like a warehouse style gym almost, but I think it had like glass all around, like glass windows all around the outside for the walls, I think. So with this diner, so they were kind of maybe owned by the same people. I don't know. The gym had a spin class, and the diner looked like a small crammed coffee shop. The color tones were kind of orange and brown with the diner. The lights were very dim, kind of like a dark yellow tone, and the decor was kind of like an old diner, kind of like, some of those chairs were, those chairs from like the 70s where the upholstery is like plastic or something, and they're like stuffed with like cotton or some kind of filler, and there's like a metal frame, and those little tables that almost look like Johnny Rockets style tables that have like that weird laminate, like that fake laminate on top of it, and then kind of the brim around it is kind of like a thick metal kind of molding around it, kind of that style, kind of like not quite like In and Out, but more kind of like Johnny Rockets type of little diner, but kind of like the lighting was dimmed, more so like a coffee shop kind of place. But it had like breakfast diner food. And so yeah, I wanted to try the diner, and I went, and I was there kind of with a previous roommate. He was talking about something heavy and negative, which is kind of his style in real life. So I didn't feel really like engaging with him while I was eating. So I was tuning him out. Like, I wasn't like engaging in conversation. I was just kind of like making it more like, okay, like not really feeding into it, just in hopes that he would like kind of hold the conversation and not really keep talking. Like, I just, I was kind of like, I don't want to talk to him about these topics because I'm in a fun looking environment, and I'd rather kind of just see if I can mingle with somebody that I don't really know versus like engaging with him. And so I went to see if I could order, and I remember, being in the dream, like kind of outside, at some point, just kind of outside the diner, looking at the outside of the diner. And you know how some restaurants have like the pictures of the food outside, so there was some kind of like a menu attached to like either the wall or like the window outside of the diner. And so I went to see if I could order. I wanted some type of meal that kind of looked like hotcakes, sausage, or like maybe like a piece of that flat type of sausage, and then like some country fried steak, like in pieces. Like, it had like maybe like 3 or 4 pieces of country fried steak, kind of like smothered with that kind of gravy, something like that. And I also wanted scrambled eggs with that. The menu was kind of weird. It was like really complicated to figure out. It wasn't like a normal kind of menu. And so, since there wasn't a line, I was kind of like, okay, but either way, I kind of felt a bit pressured to order quickly because I was like, I don't want the cashier to think I'm like spacey or whatever. And I mean, that's happened to me in real life before, where I'm kind of like spacey and then I'm like nervous and then talking to somebody I don't really know, and it's like, it can be a little hard to be like, oh, like, talking to them. And I was a little shy because the cashier was like this androgynous looking person. I was kind of into their energy, and I tried to talk a little bit to them, but without being inappropriate because they're working. But I was like, okay, let me just like keep it, basic. So I was kind of asking them facts about the diner and the gym, and they kind of were telling me some things about it because, like, I guess they had been working there for a while, and I don't know if they were the owner or they kind of just knew a lot. And so I was kind of like interacting with them like that, and I was ordering a la carte, and because I was like, I couldn't figure out the menu, so I was like, let me order separately the hotcakes, the scrambled eggs, the sausage, the pieces of the country fried steak. Not really a healthy breakfast, but that's what I wanted to eat. And it came out to be like $65, and part of me was like, oh, like I was like glad that it was like a large bill because I wanted to give them like this outrageous tip, just because I was kind of like, I was like, oh, they're kind of cute or nice or whatever. But I was like, like, that is ridiculous. Like, I don't need to be tipping somebody that, like, because I guess, like, if it was a 20% tip, it would have been, like, what, like, $13 for, like, a 20% tip. But I wanted to give them a tip that was even higher than that, like an $18 tip, or, like, closer, like, just under a $20 tip. And I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, I need to, like, calm down and stop, like, just blowing money, because that's outrageous. Like, $65 and then, like, tipping almost $20 on top of that, and that's like before tax. So it's like, who knows how much the tax even was. Out here our tax is so high, so that would have been like a disaster. So, like, yeah, the other side of me knew that knew not to do that, since I only really wanted to spend about $15 to $20, and I had cash. So I kind of edited my order and was like, and me and the cashier somewhat laughed because they were like, yeah, like, that's just how the menu is. Like, it's more expensive if you're ordering like separate items. So instead I chose the combo that looked the closest like it, but it just didn't have eggs. Like, the scrambled eggs weren't there. And I was like, dang, I really want eggs. Like, I'm not really into like hotcakes, pancakes, whatever. Like, they're not really my thing, but I'll eat them. Actually, I think maybe I got the French toast. I feel like maybe I ordered French toast, or was gonna order French toast, because now all of a sudden I'm remembering there was French toast on that menu, and it looked pretty good. But you know how, like, when the pictures are like old and faded and you can't really tell like what it's really gonna be like. So it's kind of like that. And then there were a lot of queer people around, or people who kind of presented as such, and so I was kind of looking around, and the style of the restaurant was almost like Eat at Joe's. So if you've been to an Eat at Joe's in LA, like, basically they're a cafeteria style restaurant where, well, it didn't look like this in the dream, but Eat at Joe's basically is a restaurant that it's like, it almost has like picnic tables indoors, and you order and you just go sit at a table. So if you have a group, you and your group or your family can sit at one table, but other people might come and sit at the table with you, because it's like you can just sit anywhere you want. And it's kind of like a cafeteria style, kind of like if you go to like a well, not so much like a hospital cafeteria or like a work or school cafeteria, because those places you are kind of maybe like not expected to like sit next to strangers and start talking to them or whatever. But in a cafeteria versus like a restaurant, if you were to sit next to someone and start like talking to them during a meal, like that wouldn't be like so awkward, right? Like versus like at a restaurant like Olive Garden or something, you're not just gonna like sit at a table where somebody else is there if you don't know them. So this was kind of an environment, kind of like Eat at Joe's, where you could kind of like sit where you wanted to sit. There wasn't really that much formality to it. Kind of almost like if you're at a church or something and there's like a potluck or something like that. It was kind of like a casual style like seating arrangement. And you can sit at a table with anyone. Like in my mind, I kind of knew that that's how it worked. Like you could sit at a table with anyone. And I chose seating that was somewhat central, but it was in a row of these like 2-person seated little diner tables. And yeah. And so as much as I wanted to talk to someone, that roommate was not the person that I wanted to talk to. Not necessarily. And I looked around, and some people seemed to present potentially like they might be queer, and this previous roommate, was sitting kind of diagonally across from me, like in front of me, but like not at my table. He was sitting at the table to my left. So I was kind of like, it was just enough space for me to kind of like have some separation from him. And I was kind of like looking around, just like, please let me spark up a conversation with anybody else, because I didn't really want to sit there and talk to him about whatever heavy thing he was going into. Some negative rant about like how people are bad or whatever. Like he kind of always talks about that kind of stuff. And so I was wanting to sign up for this spin class that was at 2 p.m. and I paid $1.99 to do that. Like, so I had left the gym. I guess I had gone to eat at the diner, and then I don't know if that was the sequence of events, but either way, I had left the gym, and by the time I returned, there was a super long line, and like I mentioned, it was all just like dirt. Like it looked like this area was like out in the middle of the desert, like in the middle of nowhere, with just like dirt all around, like no pavement. And so I was like standing in this line, and the line was kind of sociable, but it was moving slow, and I knew I was trying to get there by a certain time, like into the gym. So I got back in, and I noticed a few people were rolling out some of the cycling equipment from one of the smaller glass windowed rooms, and other people were finding backup equipment in a farther away room and trying to gather in one area where the cycling class was going to be. There's like a spin class there, and I looked everywhere, and all the cycles were taken, and it turned out my dad was the instructor, and he was mentioning everyone had already been in the middle of the workout, so I wouldn't be allowed to join. And I looked down at my watch, and it was barely 12:01 p.m. at that time when I was looking, meaning that I had gotten there before 12. Sorry, it was only 2:01 p.m., meaning I had gotten there before 2. Meaning I actually wasn't late arriving, and people were there, and they were so I didn't believe that they had already begun, like he mentioned. And I, because I looked around and everyone else was still warming up and stretching, and some people were adjusting the bikes and everything. So I was kind of annoyed at his attitude, and I mentioned, I was just kind of like, well, I'm not interested in doing this class anymore anyways. Like, I don't really care. And that was kind of the end of the dream. Not sure how my dad made it into a queer dream, but anyways, like, that was kind of how the dream went. And I was just like not into talking to him about it because I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's saying. But yeah, that was pretty much the dream. I don't really have too much more to say about it. And so yeah, that's kind of how it was. But all right, with that, hopefully you enjoyed that. It was a weird dream, quite vivid. I wrote it down this morning. I woke up a little bit before 6 a.m. So I wrote that dream down, and yeah, but that's all I really have for now. And thanks for listening.